It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up, a little Derby fever. But first, Ray, I want to talk about an important issue in the horse racing industry in America today, and that is the horse population. I feel like when I'm watching TV lately, I'm seeing a lot of 5-horse fields in some pretty big stakes races. Now, this happens every so often, I know that. But I feel like it's happening more often. Am I crazy, or is there something behind that?
I think you're going to have to get used to it. I believe it is happening more often. It's a numbers game, Scott. We're breeding fewer horses today than we were 10 years ago. We've reduced the number of races, but not at as great a rate as the reduction of the foal crop. We've gone from, in 2009, the last year before there was a major reduction in the foal crop, we've reduced the number of foals by 30%. Since then, we've reduced the number of races by 22%. So fewer races, but not low enough. I look at 3 years worth of foal crops, and then I compare, to 10 years ago. If I add those up, compare them to the number of races being run, I can extrapolate from where we were 10 years ago that there should only be 32,000 races this year. Well, in 2016, there were 38,000 races run in the United States. We're not going to reduce it by enough to make up for the lower number of available runners.
So the contraction has been happening in this sport, but it's not happening quickly enough, or it's not keeping up with the contraction of the foal crops. But there's another issue here that I think is important, and that is the owner side of this. Because this began around 2009, the Great Recession, so there was an economic impact that reduced the foal crop and probably drove some owners out of the sport. Now, have any of those owners come back in, or are we making up for that by getting new owners from the fan base that currently exists? I'm afraid we aren't. There are stories like Saul Cumin, who's gotten in big time in the game, but I don't think there are enough of those, and I'm not sure that it's making up for the shortage of owners, and that's something we need to address, because that's part of the problem. And then when you have short fields, the other part is the betting handle. Who wants to bet a 5-horse field? So that's a real serious problem. If you don't have handle, you don't have a sport.
Yeah, owners come from the ranks of fans. And if you have a contracting fan base, you're going to have a smaller pool from which owners will come. So it's a long-term problem that can't be fixed overnight. You can't automatically have more horses next year. We know that. You can work on the number of owners, but that's going to take time. You've got to make the ownership experience better, I think, than it is. It's never going to be a great financial thing. People don't get into owning horses to make money. They get in it for the experience. And we've got to make sure the experience for owners is as good as it can possibly be.
And that's why I like programs like owner concierge efforts, and also these racing clubs that many tracks have now, where fans can get the taste of ownership for a small amount of money, and partnerships and things like that, where people can get a taste of it, and then maybe they expand their involvement and then their investment. So those are really crucial components. The other thing is, maybe it's time to give turf racing a little more love in the United States, because we're still so dirt-centric. But turf races often fill up with 12-horse fields and are great betting product. And I think part of that is that there are close finishes in turf races, which, again, the betting side of it makes it fun. But on the other side, for the owners, they feel like their horse has a chance. Even though they might finish 8th, they're only 2 lengths from the wire. So, in dirt racing, sometimes you end up with 12-length winners and that kind of thing. And the rest of the world is all about turf, so maybe that's something to think about.
I think racing secretaries recognize that, and they're writing, the ones that have turf courses are writing more turf races than ever before. I think they're on the front lines of this battle. They know the problems as far as short fields. So we're seeing a lot more turf races than we used to see.
Well, we're not going to solve this problem today on the show, but it's a good issue to talk about, and it's something we we'll continue to discuss going forward. Now, let's jump into the Kentucky Derby trail.
Here's McCracken on the outside. Hernandez goes to the left-handed whip, drifts in slightly, but McCracken remains unblemished and will take this Sam Davis.
McCracken seen winning the Sam F. Davis last weekend. You were there at Tampa Bay Downs, Ray. Was that the most impressive 3-year-old performance you've seen this year on the road to the Kentucky Derby?
I would say so. I was a little skeptical of who McCracken beat as a 2-year-old last year. He was unbeaten in 3 starts. But I really like the way he won this race at Tampa Bay Downs. Brian Hernandez moved him as he pleased. The horse has a really neat turn of foot on the turn. He won. I thought he won pretty easily, and I was more impressed by his win than I was by Irish Warcry, who went wire to wire. He's unbeaten too, but I really think McCracken has developed into a pretty promising 3-year-old right now.
On the other hand, Irish Warcry by Curlin will probably benefit from the races getting longer, so I expect him to be better as they step up in distance, and I think he's going to be a serious contender for the Kentucky Derby. And let's not forget, let's look at recent history, the California horses. Nyquist, California Chrome, American Pharoah, on and on. The last few years have been dominating. California horses have been dominating the Derby, so we got to see what we got out west. And always at this time of year, you have horses jumping in that you weren't expecting. Right. So looking forward to that. What do you think so far? We have a poll on the website. What's been the most impressive performance to you so far this year from the 3-year-old crop? Let us know at paulickreport.com. That's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.